Hello, 大家好. Welcome to another episode of AB Chinese, where learning Chinese is fun, practical, and no nonsense. Today, I will teach you the simplest way of saying I'm sorry, as well as the simplest way of saying it's alright or it doesn't matter. This time around, we're actually going to go over the pronunciations first, and then I'll share with you some cultural insights. So let's get started. So the most common way of saying I'm sorry in Chinese is 对不起. 对不起. You can use this when you hurt someone's feelings and you want to say I'm sorry. You can say 对不起. Or if you bump into somebody on a busy street, you could also say 哦对不起. Of course, there's other ways of saying excuse me in that situation, which I'll probably make a future video about. But for now, just know that you can also say 对不起. So let's start with the pronunciation then. The first word is 对. It's spelled D-U-I. The D sounds like in English D, duh. And the UI is actually pretty easy too. It sounds like in English way, like the word this way, that way. So you put duh and way together and you get 对. Say it with the falling tone, 对. Now we're going to skip the middle word and go to the last one, 起. Remember that the Q sound sounds like in English chi, but if you push your tongue forward and clench your mouth a little bit more, you get qi. And the I sounds like ee, so qi. And finally, the last step is to add a dipping tone. Qi, 对, qi. The reason I left the middle word for the very end is because you say it with a neutral tone. It's kind of like the syllable that you kind of glide over. So we already talked about the word bu. The B sounds like a B in English, ba. And the U sounds like in English o, but with a little bit more space in your mouth, and it's a taller vowel. So, u, bu. But in this phrase, you say it with a neutral tone, and just kind of glide over it, okay? So you say, 对不起. And the reason for this really is just because it's easier to say. Whenever you have a neutral tone in Chinese, it's most commonly because it's easier to say. Like try saying 对不起 really fast, right? 对不起. 对不起, 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 对不起. And then you get to this point where it naturally becomes 对不起. And the middle syllable just doesn't really have a tone. So all together, 对不起. So the simplest way of saying it doesn't matter is 没关系. 没关系. 没 means to not have, and 关系 is relationship. So you're saying like there's no relationship, it doesn't matter, it's fine, all of the above. If you're thinking this kind of sounds like the phrase we talked about last week, 没问题, you're right. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. Now on to the pronunciation. The first word is 没. The M sounds like the M in English, ma, and the EI sounds like the hard A sound. So altogether, it sounds like the fifth month of the year with a rising tone, 没. Now those of you that were paying attention, you might be thinking, does the EI sound the same as UI, like in 对? Kind of. The UI sound has like a small W attached to it. It's way. Whereas the EI just sounds like the A sound, A. So now on to the next word. It's a little bit tricky, so let's break this down, starting with the A sound. The A sound in Chinese is like the sound you make when you go to a dentist and they're like, open up. And you're like, ah. It's that sound. Now attach the N to it, you get an, un. Then you attach the U sound to the A, and it's like a double vowel sound, but really it's just the two separate sounds collided into each other. So you get u, an, one. And finally we attach the consonant G, which sounds like the English G in the word good. G. So G. 关, 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 没关. And the last word is 系. The X sounds like in English SH, but if you move your tongue a bit more forward and clench your mouth, you get not she, but xi. And the I sounds like EE, so xi. And you say this with a neutral tone in this phrase. 没关系. 没关系. Not too bad, right? So now I want to share with you some cultural insights about 对不起. because this phrase actually doesn't mean the exact same thing as I'm sorry in English. And the reason I do this is because there are nuances in every language that you might learn that are lost in translation, things that make an equivalent phrase in the foreign language different than the equivalent phrase in your own language. And if you start to pick up on these nuances and understand them, you'll wire your brain to think in that new language, and you'll start to learn faster and understand the culture better as well. So 对不起, what does it actually mean? In English, if you say I'm sorry, there's this connotation that you feel bad. Whereas in Chinese, 对不起 has this connotation that you failed or that you're not worthy. 对 means against or to, and 起 means together. 不起 is can't be together, and of course you is implied. So you're kind of like saying like I can't stand up to you, something like that. Now don't get me wrong, if you're just saying I'm sorry, it's just 对不起, I'm sorry in everyday life. But if you add the pronouns back in, this nuance starts to come out. Like if you say 我对不起你. And I just thought of this really good example, like literally just last night. So in this movie Aftershock, if you haven't seen it, it's about the Tangshan earthquake, so it's like a natural disaster film. There's a scene where it's shortly after the earthquake and a mom finds her son and daughter trapped beneath a giant slab of concrete. And the rescue workers come and they tell her, we can only save one of your children, because if we lift on one side of the concrete, the other child gets smashed by the other side of this concrete. So the mom is crying, she's very sad, but in the end she's forced to make a choice and she chooses her son. So the workers go in and they save her son, but they also take out the body of her daughter, whom they presume to be dead, and the mom goes up to her, she holds her in her arms, and she's crying, she says, 妈妈对不起你了, 妈妈对不起你了. Now what she's saying in that line is basically, mother has failed you. Mother has failed you. It's a really sad scene. On a brighter note, there's also a phrase that's the opposite of 对不起, and it's 对得起. Now this is a more advanced phrase, so if you're a beginner, don't worry about this. I'm just telling you about this to prove a point. And 对得起 is something you would say if like someone says that you didn't treat them right or something, but you feel like you're wronged and you did treat them right, you can use 对得起. But for normal situations, just remember, 对不起 is just I'm sorry, and 我对不起你 has this feeling that not only am I sorry, but I have failed you. Alright you guys, that is it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, thumbs up. If you want to learn more, subscribe. Next week, we're going to talk about how to say bye. So I guess I'll see you next week then. 下次再见了，拜拜。